Sam, he's not who I have for you. I have someone better.
I never knew that God wanted to have relationships.
Well, it's that time again. It's time for Life Talk. Life Talk, Life Talk, Life Talk. Hello and welcome to another episode of Life Talk. I am taking full advantage of my sister friend Valencia being here in Ghana with me, and this is a huge topic, okay? And I am in it, okay? When I say I am in it, I am deeply submerged in it, and I'm finding out that a lot of people are in this season of life and don't really know how to really adjust and cope sometimes. So I thought that since Valencia, Dr. Valencia Montgomery, my dear sister friend, really deals with old age issues and dementia among her specialties, I decided I would bend her ear and get some information for all of us. How many of you out there are parenting the parents? Yeah, I'm right there. We just recently moved my parents from Michigan to Chicago to be closer to my sister who lives in a suburb of Chicago. So now they're like about 10 to 15 minutes away from her. And I have to fly in more often to just relieve her because parenting the parents can be a full-time job. And depending on where they are with health and mental issues, there are decisions that have to be made. And sometimes it's very hard to make those decisions. We would love to be able to take care of our parents and do all that we can for them. After all, they raised us, right? But I wanted her to just speak into the different phases of parenting your parents and when you have to make difficult decisions, how you make them and what you need to know. So Valencia, this is a huge topic. And let me just tell you something. When you have friends like Valencia, my dad, let's start there. My dad had an issue, and I think this is huge, where they decided he had dementia. I was on my way to Turkey, felt very helpless because I had been hired to be in Turkey giving a concert, believe it or not, when this whole thing happened. And I called Valencia. Valencia was 4 or 5 hours away. Which one?
4 hours.
About 4 hours away. She drops what she's doing, jumps in her car, and heads to where my parents are to be there at the hospital to ask the doctors questions that I wouldn't know what to ask, you know. And that's part of it. It's very scary because you literally have to be your own physician these days and research things and not just take things at face value. And so Valencia was there to ask important questions. And we had a discussion. And I said, I really don't think that he has dementia. And it's not just because I don't want to accept that. It just seems strange. And she also agreed with me, and she'll share with you why. And I'm going to tell you, I feel like there are a lot of people misdiagnosed with dementia when it's just a viral disease that is undetected. So I want you to talk about that first, and then we can go into parenting beyond that.
Yeah. So we're going to also talk about language because language is everything.
Yes.
And I've heard this parenting your parent comment so much from so many people. I'm not sure where it came from, but I want you to take a minute, everyone, if you're using that terminology, and think about yourself as an older person and whether you would want people referring to your relationship with them as parenting them, as
That's
you being
interesting.
parented, because they are adults.
Yes.
So you're not parenting them, you're taking care and advocating for them.
Okay.
So it's a partnership. You're a care partner for your parents. And that takes on a bunch of different roles, and we'll talk about it. But I always like people to consider, if you were older, would you like to hear people saying that about
Right.
you? Because parenting really is something different, right?
Okay.
It's raising a child up. So there are so many things that can impact your cognitive function as we age. Everyone, nobody's, no one's, counted out for this or excluded is the word I'm looking for. No one's excluded from this. So there are a number of things. A UTI, a urinary tract infection, any kind of infection, a vitamin deficiency like B12. Yes. Any of those things are what we call depression. Any of those things are reversible causes of cognitive dysfunction that you might experience with your family. So I always tell people, Alzheimer's disease, obviously that's the thing that most people go to. They think Alzheimer's disease and they think dementia and they think it's the same thing. And what I like to tell people is dementia is an umbrella and Alzheimer's is one of the diseases that come under that umbrella. But there are other related dementias, related disease processes that fall within that as people are learning with the Bruce Willis situation. And if possible, I'd like to address a little bit of that too while we're here.
Oh, definitely.
But so say that your parent who has been doing well on their own, they're in their 70s, 80s, and then you get there and they don't know who you are. They can't tell you their name. They can't tell you the date. They can't tell you the date of birth. Oh my God, they might have had a what?
A stroke.
They might have had a stroke. They might have a UTI.
Which was what my dad had.
And so can I use your dad as a case? When I got to the hospital, they were trying to say that he had Alzheimer's disease. And honestly, when I got in the room, I was like, Dad, can you tell them, whatever they were asking? He was like, yes. I was like, okay, would you tell them, please? And then he gave the answer. He's like, I can tell you a lot of things, And so I always say that medical professionals maybe don't always ask questions in a way that the patient at the time can understand what they want.
Yeah, because my dad's a little rebellious. And when he thinks you're trying to make him do something, he just doesn't do it as his own power move. It's not that he can't. Right. They even took his driver's license at one point, and he was very upset about that. And then they found out that it was viral, like you had said, and they did his driver's test. He passed it with flying colors, and he was back to driving.
Yeah, so the thing is, I really encourage family members to explain that your parent or person was fine prior to waking up that day or that week. And if they do not perform a test to look for a urinary tract infection or do blood work to make sure that the vitamins, if your thyroid is off. So if you're someone with a thyroid problem like hypothyroid where you're taking levothyroxine or Synthroid, and if those numbers are off, you can have things that look like cognitive impairment. Those things all need to be checked.
Explain cognitive impairment.
So it just means that your brain doesn't function efficiently. It's not functioning as it should. And it's called mild cognitive impairment because functionally there's no history that shows you can't take care of yourself. So the thing that separates mild cognitive impairment from what we think of as a dementia excuse me, is the ability to function where you can manage your finances, you are not making mistakes, you're not falling to prey to a bunch of scams, like where you can manage your medication, meaning you can put it in the pill box, you know when to take it, you take it when you're supposed to, that kind of thing. So mild cognitive impairment is something that we use when the disease process hasn't gotten further along. But any kind of cognitive impairment can happen for a number of reasons. An older adult that falls and hits their head. Oftentimes, older adults will fall, hit their head, and not tell their family member that they fell, and then go to sleep. And that is terrible because they're more susceptible to a head injury where they're going to have a bleed. And a lot of times that happens, and they get up and they think, "Oh, I'm fine," and then they go to sleep, and then they either don't wake up or somebody finds them unresponsive, and it's a longer process of healing than if they had just gone to the hospital. So those are things that are important, like to have all the information so that the doctors can better treat your family member. So if those things are ruled out, then we start to worry that there is a progressive neurodegenerative disease, meaning if your person had a UTI and that's resolved and they still haven't gone back to their baseline abilities, then I believe they should be examined by someone like me who's a neuropsychologist or a neurologist who will send them to a neuropsychologist. And if they come to us first, we're going to send them to a neurologist if we believe that that's the problem. The other thing is they always need to do a quick screener for depression because Older adults don't always experience depressions the way we think of depression. And so some of the questions that are asked to them are a bit different.
Sure.
I try to encourage people not to do any of the cognitive screeners when someone comes in like that until we know for sure what's going on with them, because it's going to be bad. It's going to point towards probably dementia, right? But it's not necessarily that. So part of it is understanding. You don't have to know all the language, but know the questions to ask. Have you looked at reversible causes of cognitive impairment? The doctor, if they don't know what that means, they shouldn't be seeing your parent. That's how I feel. If you don't know that there are reversible causes or what to look for those, but most emergency room places, they should know to do a UTI first when someone suddenly become, and they'll do the CT scan of the brain to make sure they didn't have a stroke. That's really important because time is of the essence, right? If it's a stroke. We have to get into a relationship with our parents where we're friends.
Yeah.
And guess what? When you're going through something or when something happens, what do? Do you pick up the phone and call your parents? Or do you pick up the phone and call your friend? What do most people do?
Right? They call their friends.
Exactly. So let's be friends with our family, our parents, so that they know they won't be in trouble if they hurt themselves.
Right.
You won't be
my
talking
mom,
about.
I was there and I was sleeping one night and I hear all this talking. And I'm like, what's going on? It's 2:00 in the morning. I get up, girlfriend has called 911 for herself. Said, oh, I know you had an appointment in the morning. And I was like, Mom, did you really think that I was going to lie here and sleep through them taking you away? Come on now. But, there's this, they want to still be independent.
Exactly.
They don't want to feel like they're being a bother or a burden. And you've got to make it really clear to them that you love them and you want to be there. And you find it an honor and a privilege to be able to take care of them and be there for them.
Right. And don't make it all about whatever's ailing them all the time.
Yeah.
So if the only time you visit them is because something has happened.
Right.
If the only time you spend time with them is telling them what to do and trying to fix stuff that they, in your opinion, messed up, that is going to place them in the place a lot of times that makes older adults feel like, oh man, I'm just being such a bother. I'm such a burden. That's where depression actually can start
and they want to be gone because they don't want to be a burden.
And so guess what? The next time they fall and hit their head, they're not calling you.
Right.
Because the fear of being put in a nursing home is real to very many people. And it's because, a lot of cultures, that's what they do. Oh, you're old. Let's put you in a nursing home. But research has consistently shown that people do better staying in their environment.
They deteriorate when you put them in a nursing home.
They go downhill faster.
Yeah.
And so my goal whenever a patient crosses my door is for the patient's safety, number one, and to educate the family, especially if I see things that I don't appreciate so much. Number two, and to be brutally honest about what I'm seeing on testing and what my concerns are, and to provide as many recommendations as I can that can help both the patient and the family member come together and have them have a way to advocate in case doctors see my report and they just look over my recommendations.
Now, let me ask you this, because the nursing home issue is real.
Yes.
Okay. I think some people jump on that too quickly.